To talk, we might as well be talking to everyone, right? How you doing,
Yeah,
Tobin?
doing well.
Yeah. What's
How
up,
about
Secrets?
yourself?
I'm doing okay, yeah, I'm doing okay. Busy as always. Yeah, I just checked my bank account online in between
Oh,
going to the bathroom and coming back. And I'm like, I should really check this more often. That's what I thought, Tobin. I thought it's like, really, I should really look at my bank account a little bit more often than I do. For good and for bad reasons, right?
yeah,
Mostly bad, but sometimes good. Knowing that I get paid for my job, that's important to know.
right.
John
Yeah, and
Christian.
then watching out for those, little transactions that may not be legitimate.
Yes, yes, the death by a thousand cuts there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just looking at him. It's like, did I do well? Yeah, maybe I did. I do. Yeah. Yeah.
See, we got our
So
crew here:
got the
Dave and
morning. Yeah. Yeah.
Big Z, John.
Yeah. I hoped I did the Canadian story justice. I did a lot of reading. I watched the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting, whatever it is. The Canadian version of the BBC. And so, yeah, I did a dive into the Canadian story, and I thought it would be good to open it up with a story about about that trucker from Georgia, and then bring it over to Canada. Yeah.
It is ridiculous, and it's like, um, I, I remember arguing with somebody about the BLM movement, and they said,
Yeah.
uh, they're saying that this one person was making all this money and they were selling all these t-shirts making millions of dollars, and I was like, wait a minute, what group of people sells t-shirts and can make millions of dollars off of it? I mean,
Let me tell you, I'm someone who's tried to sell T-shirts, and I'm lucky to sell one. Yeah, yeah. No one's making a ton, especially from the left, right?
right, yeah, our ideas are not the most popular, and you put them on a t-shirt. Actually, I've heard people say that they've been rejected, like at convenience stores or whatnot, for having an
Yeah,
atheist shirt on.
yeah, yeah. You have to be willing to throw down,
Yeah.
basically. If you wear any kind of atheist swag, the most what I would wear, and I got this from, I don't know, the Freedom Fest, the Freedom Rally down in DC like years ago. I got a little friendly atheist pin, which was not, it wasn't like big, it wasn't all, but
Right.
if some people saw it, they liked it. Um, yeah, but wearing a big atheist swag, you are going to find issues. There are going to be people who have issues with that.
It was my early 20s. I learned that lesson, and now pretty much all of my clothing doesn't have any type of logos or anything. Like,
Yeah,
I got busted for weed one time, and it wasn't even like on my shirt, it was on my wallet. I knew that the picture was on the back side of the wallet. I kept the wallet to the palm of my hand,
yeah,
but the officer, I think he picked up that I was like trying to hide. I think he could tell that I was using sleight of hand. And so
right.
he took the wallet from me, and then he looked at it and he was like, oh, okay. And yeah, it just kept on going downhill from there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I can see that, dude. I can definitely see that. I just want to pivot for a little bit. I every once in a while, Sam Harris, the podcaster, the scientist, the atheist. I don't agree. Once again, I'm going to say, like I always talk about, Dr. Harris, is that I don't agree with everything Sam Harris says, but if you look on his, or if you listen to his podcast, Waking Up, he had a great panel. It was a 2-hour show. It was basically a Zoom meeting with a bunch of writers from the Atlantic, and they were talking about democracy in America, in the United States of America, the threat of Trumpism, the threat of the religious right. And if you got 2 hours, everyone, it's it's well worth your time. You're not going to agree with everything that you hear on the podcast on that episode, but I got a lot of good information out of it, and there are people acting in good faith talking on the panel. And one of the things that really stuck in my head was that Harris said Donald Trump is the largest cult leader in the world. Donald J. Trump is the largest cult leader in the world. And I'm like, wow. Well, it's something I knew, but it's always good to hear someone say that out loud. And one of my criticisms about the movement, about the skeptic movement, about the humanists and atheist movement is that we have not been talking more about Donald J. Trump. But Harris really did put it right out there that he is a cult leader. He is the cult leader of the world's largest, if not then the most dangerous cult in the world. Yeah, and that really struck home with me.
I've noticed that too. There's some atheists that do not want to talk about politics. They're like, oh, this is just going to bring an argument onto our channel, and then we're all going to disagree, and then we're all just going to like disband, and we're not going to have a channel to hang out on. But it's festering. It is apparent now. It is very demonstrable to see this group, this cult, like hive mind kind of tribalism group. They're strong. They're all over the place.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, dude. I mean, after the January 6th insurrection, you would have thought that the skeptic movement would have treated that like they treated 9/11. Right after 9/11, it was all about, we should really look at Islam. We should look at the dangers of Islam. We should look at the dangers of religious fundamentalism. But once again, when white people do it, it's much more difficult and let's face it, most of the skeptic movement, most of the atheist movement are basically a bunch of white dudes. It's difficult to be like, oh, it's my own people who are doing this and they are the problem. And I think it's just another aspect of toxic tribalism, why more atheists don't talk about it. Yeah.
I hope I can have a part in making that, like breaking that ice and being like, no, because I'm not the most intelligent one, but I do think the country is so polarized, and I think not talking about things is what causes the problem.
Well,
I've had some of the biggest problems became because I didn't say things. I didn't ask for help.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. And especially with channels or platforms of skeptics, and that's their entire premise of their channel, is to do debates or to discuss difficult ideas. It's like, once again, if you're a skeptic, then are you skeptical about politics the same way that you're skeptical about religion? Because to tell you the truth, everyone, religion, it's a done deal. When you're talking about scholastic, what scholars say about faith, no one seriously treats the Bible as the word of God, right? Only religious fanatics do. That is a closed case. What is unfortunately open is for discussion is fascism, and whether or not democracy is the best, representative government is the best way to run a society.
Heck no.
Yeah.
And you see that grab a hold, and then like Greg Locke with the with calling out witches and stuff, and then seeing that kind of like, if that was able to get into our government, that type of thinking and those type of restrictions, that is like, that would be tyranny. That would be
right. They tell you what they're going to do. It isn't like they're saying, oh, no, they're telling you. Religious fanatics will tell you exactly what they're going to do. you know, National Socialists in Germany back in the 20s and the 30s. They told you what they were going to do. There was at least one book in propaganda about what the plan is. Same thing with the Bolsheviks in Russia. People will tell you who they are. They'll tell you what they plan to do, and we should take them seriously.
Mhm.
You know, if the religious right say that, gosh, we're all about witches, just like in sub-Saharan Africa, there's a whole anti-witch, craziness that's partly funded by evangelical churches here in the States. It's like, yeah, they're serious. They're serious about this.
And it's disturbing.
It is. It is.
So I will, whenever I'm talking with the people that that are in my local community, I'm going to talk about it. I've already broken the ice. There's people who have started to notice that, oh, I'm not like all the rest.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, Tobin. Yeah, because yeah, job well done on that too. And I think if everyone, even if you just talk to one person, right, to try to change their hearts and mind and invest some time with that person, because we've seen that it isn't just one conversation that changes a person's opinion. It's multiple conversations over time that help turn people away from these toxic belief systems.
That is one thing it's one of my goals. Like I used to spend a lot of time in the comment sections and talking with people, and it was one of my goals was to try to make the thread pop 100 comments, and I could do it. I could keep if as long as I would only trade one post for another post.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes people would throw 2 or 3, and I would just consolidate it down into one. I would just keep it to where I was only saying one post at a time. I don't want to badger somebody or anything. My goal is to get them to respond back to me and to continue as often as they will.
Well, I think that's actually the best way to interact with everyday people, because it isn't a debate, right? I mean, it isn't, when you're trying to influence another person, I think a lot of skeptics feel like, oh, I automatically go into debate mode, and influencing people and debating are two different things, right? They're similar skill sets and they have similar goals, but you can win on points in a debate and still not influence anyone whatsoever. And what's the point of that, right? So it's really a question about how do you change people's hearts and minds. And then, if you want to win the quote unquote debate on points, and that's fantastic too. But the more important thing is changing hearts and minds.
Yeah, and there's more than one way than debate to achieve that kind of goal. Like storytelling. I've heard you talk about using storytelling. People can relate their lives to those stories.
Yeah,
Things like that.
that's why Christians, that's why atheists use testimonials, right?
Yeah.
Your story is the most important weapon that you have. You know your story. You may not be an expert in anti-apologetics, but you're an expert in you and in your story, and just that has a lot of power.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man. So I'm so what were you right? Were you recording yesterday, Tobin?
I did do some recording. We did.
Yeah,
It does sound good. I'm proud of it.
that's good, dude. Good for
This
you.
really is my best bunch of songs that I've done. I've recorded a whole bunch. Like I got a huge amount of songs. I haven't counted them all, but it is somewhere in between 60 and 150.
Wow, that's a lot. That's
but a lot of them are plagued with like static and or buzzing sounds that aren't supposed to be there.
Yep. Yep. There's a whole technical aspect to all of to audio that I do not understand.
It is an art, and within itself, it is a whole nother like facet of music that stands on itself. Like it has its own set of knowledge. That's for sure.
Yeah, one of the, when I was doing short funny films, short funny like shorts. The one person you always paid was the sound person, because if it sounds like crap, then people are not going to respond. So you pay your editor, you pay your sound person, maybe the guy who's holding the camera too. But usually the guy who's holding the camera is either you or your buddy.
Yeah, there was a particular club down in Houston. I don't even know if it's still there anymore, but I totally skipped over it. Although it was like a decent sized one, I was like, I don't want to play here because that whoever ran the soundboard over there was horrible. Like I couldn't take it on my ears. I like my music loud, but it's got to be um, equalized out well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you bring up an interesting point about how do you, as a performer or as an artist, decide to spend your time, right? On where do you decide to go and do your thing, and that's those are tough choices. I was just talking to my buddy Jack Maturko. He was over at SatanCon, right, over in Arizona
Yeah.
over the weekend, and he was one of the tech people who did the behind the scenes, engineering for SatanCon. And he was telling me, there were a lot of people who there were people who said, we really missed this Naked Diner podcast. The podcast that Jack and I did for a number of years. And I it's like, Jack, I got a YouTube channel, which I spend a lot of time and energy into. I do the blog, which I spend a good amount of time and energy into. And then I'm also trying to edit I'm also doing like some managerial work on Only Joking too. So and I'm also on other, I'm a presence on social media too. So if we're gonna resurrect the Naked Data podcast, then there'd have to be some kind of money involved, because otherwise, I would, I can barely hold it together now, with my work schedule, with everything else going on. So I said, look, if you want to do a Kickstarter and say that for 12 episodes, we get paid X amount of money, and that's to cover the costs, as well as put, like a couple of shekels in our pocket. And if you want to start organizing that, and I'll help you, of course, but otherwise, I just can't do something for free. I'm already doing a lot of free material. I'm already doing a lot of free stuff, or nearly free, right? Like the amount of money I had paid here. And thank you to patrons and YouTube members and everything like that. But for the amount of time and effort, it's, I do it because I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about the platform. But to start up something new for free, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I got the juice for it, So that's Andy Hall complaining, basically. That's me.
It is definitely a different, like I used to like go around trying to pick up venues and like doing it like it's so much different now because we have the internet.
Yeah.
Than how I used to operate. But yeah, it does. It takes a lot of time to invest and funds.
Yeah. Well, talking about what makes the internet different from going out and performing live. Now, I'm sure that you've gone and done a lot of gigs that basically you lost money on, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've been there.
Right. As have I. I have gotten paid for gigs that I'm like, well, somehow I lost money on this. And then there's just the free stuff that you do just to work on your art. in which you just lose money and time on. So that's at least the benefit of the internet, is that you're not going to lose as much time and money as you would going out, setting up, doing your thing. And yeah, that is one of the benefits of being in this space as against to performing live.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a channel that it's a somewhat of a smaller channel, and they're thinking about even starting one of those little Kickstarters to get like $100 raised to be able to get a guest that will bring some viewership to the channel.
Yep. Yeah, I don't pay for, I'll tell you this. I've had people basically try to shake me down for money when we were doing the Naked Diner podcast. And one person in particular, which was surprising. And I'm like, dude, do you know who I am? I get paid. Like, one, I don't get paid for the podcast when I was doing the Naked Diner. Very little amount we had on our Patreon. And it's like, I work with people who have disabilities. I don't have this is not a cash cow you're looking at, right? And then I had Bart. Yeah, I'll say his name, Bart Armin, the guy who did the misquoting Jesus. And it's like, yeah, he wants some. If he isn't getting paid, then it has to be a huge channel. And it's like, well, this is neat. This is not what I'm doing. I'm not going to pay you to come on, and I'm not going. And obviously, I'm not large enough to host you in your mind. So yeah, so I don't pay. I don't pay. I'll hustle. I'll talk to people. I'll form relationships, but I'm not paying for people.
Yeah. It is kind of weird. I didn't know what to say to the person. I remained neutral because I don't know. Like, to me, this is about being activism, and also because I actually like you guys. I like hanging out with you guys. I want to hear what y'all have to say about certain social events and stuff like that. But there's also the activist part of it, to where as many people as we can get talking on the internet, that way it has the more opportunities to hit more eyes. It's
Right.
just making it to where the ideas that are in our community can, be able to, one, either for the people to just, kind of start to accept us.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to agree with us, but to make it to where we're not demonized. There's a word I'm looking for, but I'm stumbling
demonized is
right.
fine. I think demonized is a good way of putting how atheists are treated here. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even bring the people who, because there was a good while, like, my ideas, I would go in the direction of, like, but then I still had, like, the some things that were I was like basically a fence sitter. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know where I was going to take my stand at.
Yeah.
And because of shows like the ones that you do and others, it helped me think through, a bunch of stuff. And now I know where I'm standing, and I'm going to stand up for it. It's like y'all brought me in. If nobody was out there talking about this, I could quite possibly be another one of those little nutbags out there honking horns up in Canada, driving people crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. It's once you realize that the other side is active and treating this seriously, and then you wonder, well, I mean, that side is treating, the religious the right-wing religious fanatics, they're treating this seriously. Why aren't we? Yeah. And actually, I was thinking, I got this email last night about, and this is about how you decide to use your time, right? So there was this protest about Starbucks. Starbucks fired a few pro-union people, and there was going to be a protest against Starbucks, basically, because we know that Starbucks have been unionizing here in the States. Excuse me, and so Starbucks has been is afraid, and so they fired a few pro-union people, and I forget where it was. And this protest was going to be in Boston Government Center at 9:30 this morning. It's like, well, I can't do that. I could, but I'd blow off the show, and it would be fun. But yeah, it was just one of those things I had thought about, and it's like, I can't do that. Though it would have been fun. So if you have if you get an email from anyone, so if there's a protest out there, there is active resistance against Starbucks right now, firing pro-union folks. So if you see something about that, it might be worth your time. It might be worth your time.
Before I was had found this online community, that was one of the things that I liked to look at. I would look it up on the internet, protest happening in, the world.
Yeah.
And like it's dangerous. Like, I understand we need to like stand up for our rights, but I don't know if protests are actually really necessary in this day and age. I could be wrong, but
I will say this is that you are right, definitely right about danger, right? Whenever you're out there, you don't know what's going to happen. Sure, I brought my kid, my daughter, to the women's rally, right, that we had here in Boston a couple of months ago, and very low likelihood of things going crazy at the women's rally. There was only one counter protester, religious fanatic with a loudspeaker, but that was it, right? So going to an event like that, low chance of things going sideways. But there are definitely, protests that things can get hairy, and you got to treat it seriously. You got to go in eyes wide open. A lot of labor movements have been successful due to strikes, right? Lawful strikes that have been, that oligarchs have used physical force, and that includes the police, to break up. So you're going out there to protest for something like, there's definitely the Women's March down here, not likely to get into any kind of crazy stuff, but you start going into labor protests, and that, yeah, there's a risk there, and you shouldn't fool yourself.
yeah, things can go sideways real quick.
Yeah, definitely. Dave says.
But there still needs. Oh, yeah.
Nope. Protests are necessary so long as people are complacent about voting with their dollars. Oh yeah, you're right, Dave. Yeah. I try to be careful with voting with my dollars.
There needs to be some type of action taken. You can't just let it go by. We can't let Starbucks just start firing people who are pro-union. That is that is a type of discrimination, right? I mean,
oh yeah. And so I was listening to NPR while I was driving yesterday. Excuse me, I got this thing in my throat. And they said, the private sector, only 6% of U.S. workers are unionized. Of course, the number gets higher when you get into the government and into the public sector. But in terms of the private sector, only 6% of U.S. workers are unionized. And that's because corporations have gotten really good at fighting unions over the years, right? As corporations have been flooded with money, in part due to tax cuts, they've become incredibly efficient at busting unions. So John Hudson's here, and he had to get a tire fixed. Well, Tires do have a tendency of breaking or busting or blowing out or doing something bad. Okay, I think I'm going to close up the show and do the same crazy thing tomorrow, everyone.
Yeah.
9 to 9:25. I don't know what the shows are. I don't know what the show's going to be about. I always take time starting now and looking through the news feed and starting to get the news stories and everything. Tobin Templeman, you doing more recording today? You doing editing? What do you got going on?
Now I'm working on the video.
You're working on the video. Very
Yeah.
good. Very good. And all right, cool. Well, thanks everyone. Shamala Hamla.
Shamala hamala.
We'll do this crazy thing tomorrow. See ya.